Mr. Malick, a comment from you on what Fahad has rightly mentioned, that if the dimension of the policy is totally different in KP, or the dimension of looking at the facts is totally different in KP, how does that add to the resolve that we are currently witnessing?
I think one of the reasons we see Imran Khan or the KP government adopt a different approach is because I know they feel that they're going to face the brunt of it. And that is where the terrorism is happening. So it's only natural for them to try to take a more moderate approach, where they say, let's have talk first and fight later. Whereas Islamabad or Pindi might be more keen on talk, fight, having at the same time. So I understand the reluctance or the softness, as Fahad put it, towards a particular group, but not that it has paid off in the past. Again, there are more than one angle to it. You see, what happens is that what about the religious extremism ecosystem inside Pakistan? Mm-hmm. This is what feeds groups like the Taliban, Pakistan and others to meld into the, sort of melt into the society, become a part of it and hide within plain sight. Now, we keep seeing different groups emerging at a different time. First, we had Hafiz Saeed Saab, and we were told, his is only Kashmir agenda, he's not a religious extremist and all that. But we saw those groups, they're all joined at the hip. We saw TTP and those guys working in tandem at one time or another. Now we see another group, TLP, being nurtured as a new religious group in Pakistan. It's a formidable force. Who stops them from tomorrow being joined at the hip with Taliban for whatever pretext? How did Taliban Pakistan start? It started off as a religious extremist group. And then it had created its own nationhood of a Islamic State and its own separate thing. While we are hitting people across the border, we have to be very careful what we're doing inside our borders also. Are we nurturing new terrorist religious extremist groups? Yes, we are. Are we supporting them or tolerating them and suffering them? Yes, we are. Are moderate religious parties being pushed to the sidelines? Yes, they are. Let's talk about Maulana Fazlur Rahman. In ANP, I have a million differences with Maulana Fazlur Rahman, but he does represent a moderate religious viewpoint. His space has now been further taken over by extremist groups over there also. And his demolition in elections reduces his influence significantly. You might want Maulana Fazlur Rahman out of the power corridors for political reasons. What about the space that his party loses in that moderate religious things also? So it's not that Taliban Pakistan works in a vacuum. It has its own culling fields in Pakistan, and there are many factors contributing to it. Yes, kinetic action is brilliant. You go in, you bomb, you hit, brilliant. And I'm all for it. If your officers and your Jawans die, there must be a public, open response to it. But how many strikes are you going to do inside Afghanistan?
Yeah,
are you going to declare an open war?
That's
Obviously
the paradox. Yeah,
you need to look at the factors that are inside Pakistan. They might be more difficult. There are more difficult choices to make than the choice to strike against across the border in a country where the government is not recognized by 90% of the world. It was an easier choice. Mm-hmm. The more tougher choices that need to be undertaken are inside Pakistan. Okay. And that's where the problem lies.
Okay, but it's not changing. Nothing is changing in Afghanistan, because there is a report out there that says that even Al-Qaeda is getting foothold over there now. So it is ISKP, it is TTP, it is Al-Qaeda already there. Do you think that we are back to square one when it comes to Afghanistan?
As for the resolve is declared, I think Pakistan, it was inevitable. Pakistan had to do it, mm-hmm. And now Pakistan needs to hold the line, despite what Zabiullah Mujahid and others are making very strong statements. But there is a certain reality on ground. Now there's an impression that's being given is as if the Taliban have been lying to us about everything. It isn't the case. When the Taliban came into power, one of the first issues that Pakistan raised with them, and this I'm talking about, I'm privy to a lot of things that happened behind the doors. And I've been covering Afghanistan since the 90s, even when the war of Mujahideen was going on there. and I was amongst the first 3 journalists who entered Kabul when it fell. So I have a pretty long field experience over there. That's what I'm saying. Now, Taliban made it very clear to them that it's not easy for us to rein in Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan people over there, because they owed it to them. They said that when Daesh and others were raising a serious challenge against the Taliban inside Afghanistan, TTP people fought alongside them.
Yeah.
And one of the senior most leaders, when I was talking to him, he said to me very plainly, he said, Malik Sahab, how can we betray our friends when they need us and when they fought alongside us when we needed them? So that is their way of thinking at one level. Forget about other groups and other money interests and all that. This is the core understanding. So even when during the last government, you might remember when I've narrated this incident earlier also, Khwaja Asif along with DGI went to Kabul. They had meetings and a lot of things were discussed. So Taliban asked them for about 15 billion rupees to at least move the families of TTP people away from the border, so that the Pakistan army could deal directly with the fighting side of the thing and not take on families as a collateral damage or something like that. That thing happened, progressed a little. I believe about 5 billion were paid out also, and then it fizzled out. So it's a multi-layered thing, and like you just said now yourself, that again you see a rise in Daesh, Al-Qaeda and everything. So the Taliban government has a lot of internal challenges. So it needs a lot of internal support from wherever it can get. TTP is giving its support to them in their own internal strifes. So I think it's becoming increasingly complicated. That's why the strike was very important. And the message was very clearly given to Taliban that, you know, no matter what your internal issues are, either keep them inside Afghanistan, but don't let those guys don't allow them to sort of spill it over into Pakistan.
Yeah.
So this was inevitable, but it's not as simple or as single-dimensional as it looks.